The boy had only 2 grenades, but he threw one of them into the water, because he hadn't eaten in 2 days and wanted to catch some fish to eat. But when he threw the grenade in, nothing happened. He had no choice but to throw his last one as well. This time, the grenade exploded, but to his surprise, not only did he fail to catch any fish, but instead blew up a whole pile of corpses. But Pete wasn't afraid, because this was a post-apocalyptic world after the war. The air and soil were severely contaminated. To survive, humans had to resort to any means necessary. Pete understood this logic as well. After returning to shore, he began pretending to be a corpse. His goal was to attract nearby dogs. He quietly clenched the machete he had hidden. When the stray dogs charged at him, he launched an instant attack. The dog instantly bit into his arm. But Peter grabbed the machete with his other hand and quickly killed his prey, just when he thought his father would be happy to bring him food. His father instead began berating him, because animal innards contain many toxins. Only by removing the organs on the spot can the meat be kept from spoiling, so now the game was no longer edible. He had his son skin the animal, intending to trade the pelt at the neighbor's house for food, but the neighbor, relying on the gun he held, falsely accused his father of killing his dog. Not only did they fail to get any food, but the pelt was also snatched away. Pete hid and witnessed the whole scene. This is the world after the apocalypse. In the end, his father only managed to trade for 2 small fish, but unexpectedly, the next day, the neighbor came knocking on their door, accusing Pete of stealing from his house. Clearly, the neighbor was looking for a fight, but since the neighbor had a gun, he threatened his father to kneel down, then ordered him to open his mouth and shoved the muzzle into his father's mouth. Pete quickly took out a piece of silk and gave it to him. The neighbor left only after getting what he wanted. Early the next morning, he finally had something to celebrate. He caught a big fish, so he hurried to tell his father the good news. But as soon as he walked in, he saw that his father had already passed away, because the air and soil had been contaminated. Even the plants hadn't survived. His father had suffered from poisoning due to years of eating wild plants, but since Peter was born into a post-apocalyptic world, he couldn't tell if his father was dead or asleep, so he resorted to the simplest solution. He stayed outside the door, watching over his father all day. It wasn't until evening, when he saw his father still slumped over the table, that he was forced to accept the reality of his father's death. He noticed a notebook pressed beneath his father's body. It was his father's treasure. Pete had seen his father writing and drawing in it every day, but he'd never known what was written inside. His father had never let him look at it, not even a peek. Now that his father was gone, he could finally read it. But as he flipped through the pages, he didn't recognize a single word. Furious, he tossed the notebook aside, placed his father's body in a small boat, rowed him to the middle of the river, and then threw him straight into the water. The first thing he did after his father's death was to go to the neighbor's house to seek revenge. When the neighbor saw Pete show up uninvited, he lashed out at him just as viciously as before. Completely unaware that Pete was hiding a club behind his back, he tied up the neighbor and swung him through the air. Finally, the rage in his heart subsided. Then he decisively pulled the lever, drowning him in the water. He searched the neighbor's house for anything useful, then left the place where he had lived for 18 years. But the outside world was even more brutal. He drifted downstream along the small river. After an unknown amount of time, he pulled the boat to the shore, intending to find something to eat. Sure enough, just as his father had said, there was no sign of human life. Rows of abandoned cars lined the road, as if they had been parked there for a very long time.